remember when you came to Hong Kong at a time in your career when many academics would be thinking of retiring, you went off into South China to pursue fieldwork on Miao languages, minority languages of South China. Could you tell us something about what was motivating that work, and maybe something about what you found?
Sure. I can't imagine retiring because this work that we do is so interesting. Actually, when I was at Berkeley, quite early on, I read about a Chinese anthropologist by the name of Fei Xiaotong. Fei Xiaotong, I think in the 1930s or 40s, went to a place in Guangxi called Dayaoshan to study the Yao people there. And there's a very touching history of him and his young wife going up to Dayaoshan, finally tracking down these people, and through a series of tragic accidents, he lost his wife on that field trip. So that made a deep impression on me. And later on, when I got to know Professor Li Fanggui some, and Li Fanggui, of course, had this master plan of how the languages of China fit together, and the Miao Yao branch was always very controversial. Is it Sinitic? Is it Austroasiatic? Is it Austronesian? Or is it something of its own? So Fei Xiaotong's story, this linguistic controversy, kind of stuck in my mind. And I tried to make some trips when I was in Berkeley, but it was just too inconvenient. So when I finally decided to retire from teaching at Berkeley, I thought this would be a much better way of doing it, just to relocate to Hong Kong and be a lot closer to these endangered languages. And one of the first things I did, of course, was to go to Dayaoshan with a bunch of my students and recorded some of the Yao materials. And since that time, we've also extended our interest to many of the languages in Yunnan. And one of my students at Chinese City University now is a professor at Peking University by the name of Wang Feng, has studied another such enigma, the Bai language of Yunnan. How is that affiliated? So I think such languages are of interest in two dimensions. On the one side, we need to solve these scientific problems about language evolution and what is vertical transmission, what is horizontal transmission. On the other hand, I think we ought to call attention to these languages which are disappearing fast. As people tell me there, you pave another road and you lose another language. Because once these villagers smell the success of outside, there's a genuine reluctance to pass on their own heritage, to pass on their own language, and once you lose a language, you lose a culture. So this was one of the reasons that motivated my going to these villages, as well as moving across the Pacific in the first place.
Qi